Hi, Justin. I'm doing my producer case study on King Tubby, uh, who produced Augustus Pablo's King Tubby Meets Rockers Uptown. Alright, so this is just information about Augustus Pablo. He was born Horace Michael Swaby in June 1953. He died in 1999. He was a Jamaican roots reggae and dub producer, performer, record producer, and multi-instrumentalist. He was active from the 1970s up until his death, and he was known for mainly playing the melodica as his main instrument. He was born in St. Andrews, Jamaica. He learned to play the organ at the Kingston College School, where a girl lent him a melodica. And he also met Herman Chinloy, who is actually a big-time record producer from Jamaica, who was really known for his productions in the late 60s and 70s of Augustus Pablo, Dennis Brown, Alton Ellis. One thing that's actually like a really interesting fact is that Herman Chinloy had previously used the name Augustus Pablo before, Horace Swaby, who is the actual Augustus Pablo that everybody knows. Herman Chinloy had used the name Augustus Pablo generically for keyboard instrumentals recorded by Lloyd Chambers and Glenn Adams, and then Swaby took the name for his own recordings. I should talk about dub a little bit more. Dub is a musical style that grew out of reggae in the late 60s and early 70s. Commonly considered a subgenre of reggae, though it's developed to extend beyond the style. Generally, dub consists of remixes of existing recordings created by significantly manipulating the original, usually through the removal of vocal parts, emphasis of the rhythm section, the stripped-down drum and bass track is sometimes referred to as the rhythm, the application of studio effects such as echo and reverb, and the occasional dubbing of vocal or instrumental snippets from the original version or other works. So, these sample stuff. Dub was pioneered by recording engineers and producers such as Osborne Ruddock, Hopeton Brown, Lee Scratch Perry, Errol Thompson, and Augustus Pablo, who collaborated with many of these producers and is credited with bringing the distinct sounding melodica to dub. And it's also among the pioneers of the genre. Dub has influenced many genres of music, including rock, but most significantly the subgenre of post-punk and other kinds of punk, pop, hip-hop, post-disco, and later house, techno, ambient, electronic dance music, and trip-hop. Dub was the root genre of genres of drum and bass, jungle, and later on a major influence on dubstep, with its orientation around bass and utilization of audio effects. Traditional dub was survived still to this day, with some of the originators, such as Mad Professor, continue to produce music today. Alright, now some information about the producer. Osborne Ruddock, better known as King Tubby, was born in January 1941, passed away in 1989. He was a Jamaican sound engineer who influenced the development of dub music in the late 60s and 70s. He began in the late 50s, working in the whole sound system culture that was booming in Kingston. He had his own system called Tubby's Hometown Hi-Fi that he started in 1958. It was popular due to the high quality of his equipment and exclusive releases and Tubby's own echo and reverb sound effects, which at that point was a novelty which hadn't been recreated outside of a studio setting. The sound also launched the career of U-Roy, who is its toaster. Tubby began working as a disc cutter for producer Duke Reed in 1968, who was friends with Cox and Dodd, who ran Treasure Isle Studios, which was one of Jamaica's first independent production houses, who was also a key producer of ska, rocksteady, and eventually reggae recordings. Before the advent of dub, most Jamaican 45s featured an instrumental version of the song on the flip side, which was called The Virgin. When Tubby was asked to produce versions of songs for sound system MCs or toasters, he initially worked to remove the vocal tracks with faders on the Reed's mixing desk, but soon discovered that the various instrumental tracks could be accentuated, reworked, and emphasized through the settings of the mixer and with early effects units. In time, Tubby began to create wholly new pieces of music by shifting around the emphasis of the instruments, adding the sounds and removing others, and adding various special effects, really crazy delays, echoes, reverbs, and phase effects. Particularly due to the popularity of these early remixes in 1971, Tubby's sound system consolidated its position as one of the most popular ones in Kingston, and Tubby decided to open a studio of his own in Waterhouse in 1971 with a 4-track mixer purchased from Brian Lee's Dynamic Studio. And now we get to his actual music production of dub. King Tubby's production work in the 70s made him one of the best-known celebrities in Jamaica, and generated interest in his production techniques from producers, sound engineers, and musicians all across the world. Tubby built on his knowledge of electronics to repair, adapt, and design his very own studio equipment, which made use of combination of old devices, new technologies, troubleshooting equipment, and just to produce a studio capable of the precise atmospheric sounds which would become Tubby's trademark. With a variety of effects units connected to his mixer, Tubby played the mixing desk like an instrument, bringing instruments and vocals in and out of the mix to create an entirely new genre. By the end of 1971, he was already providing dub mixes for producers such as Glenn Brown and Lee Scratch Perry. What's crazy is that using only existing multi-track master tapes, his small studio in fact had no capacity to record session musicians. So Tubby retaped or dubbed the original after passing it through his 12-channel custom-built MCI mixing disc, twisting the songs into unexpected configurations, which highlighted the heavy rhythms of the bass and drum parts with minute snatches of vocals, horns, piano, and organ. These techniques mirrored the actions of the sound system selectors, the reggae disc jockeys, who had long used EQ equipment to emphasize certain aspects of particular records. But Tubby used his custom-built studio to take this technique into completely new areas, transforming a hit song to the point where it was basically unrecognizable from the original. One unique aspect of his remixes and dubs was the result of creative manipulating of the built-in high-pass filter on his MCI mixer, which he bought from Dynamic Studios. The filter was a parametric EQ, which was controllable by a big knob, which allowed Tubby to introduce a dramatic and narrowing sweep of any signal, such as the horns, till the sound disappeared into a thin squeal.
Tomorrow may not be the same.
While I'm here, while I'm stood up and stuff, I'll just give you like the lowdown of everything. So here we go. This is what the kick looks like. Please focus. This is the recording setup. So this is that's a Sontronic Solo. Some dynamic mics, basically a vocal mic. I'm using that as the overhead. Using that guy. That's some stinky little Shure Unidyne thing. It's pretty old. I don't know if it even works properly, but that's kind of perfect for what I'm going for. That's going on the snare. If you look, yeah, it's just like literally like a pinky finger worth of distance away from the actual rim of the snare. And then we got this fucking kick mic. It's from the school. And then from all these guys, I'm recording into my 4-input Volt interface. This guy is the 476P. I'm gonna save up for the 8 because that's gonna be awesome. And I have Logic. Yeah, I'm a Barbara Streisand stan. Sorry. Sorry. Anyways. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of a brief overview of kind of drum setup, because it was basically some kind of shit like this. It was, you know, really simple stuff. Like everything I'm using right now is just a dynamic mic, nothing fancy. And I'm not very good at drums, so I'm so sorry if this sounds bad, but bear with.
Oh, brother, this can only stand.
Alright guys, so here we are in the dungeon. Don't look up there because that's the cat litter I recorded yesterday, the drums. Here it is, there it is right there, look at that, wow. And then I'm gonna go from the computer to the Volt. The Volt has 4 inputs and 6 outputs. 1 input to record stuff that I'm gonna put through the amp. I have it mic'd that way for a reason I'll explain later. And I have I'm using 2 outputs over there in the back. See if I angled that right. Those are going into the mixing console. Currently, I have routed the kick and the snare to channels 1 and 2 on the console. And then I also have a delay pedal that I will be putting in the effect send, and also a chorus pedal. The chorus pedal I'm not using for chorus, I'm using it for stereo stuff. So I'm gonna use that so I can have 2 signals of the same thing. I'm not even gonna turn on the chorus. It'll be effect send, delay, chorus, and then 1 will go to the effects return, and then 1 will be going into track. It'll be going into channel 6, and that'll be my delay space channel. That'll be used for feedback. So I have the delay set so that the feedback's at 0 on the pedal, but I'm going to use the actual channel itself for feedback, because the channel has aux send, but I have the pedal going into the channel, so it's got itself, and it's going to send itself to itself, etc. So there's the feedback happening, and there's a perfect sweet spot where I can kind of like play with it and get it to oscillate, get to turn off, and lean into it and back off when I want to. That'll be cool. Also, I'm going to be using a direct out, because the mixing console has that, so I can basically reamp the snare drum into the amp. I'm also going to be recording guitar through the amp. I'm also going to be recording DI for texture, because he did at the time. So I'm going to be running it into the amp out of the direct out from here. We'll be running it into the amp. And the amp has real spring reverb. That's why I'm using it. For the guitar sounds, I'll explain why the mic is kind of off-center. It's a 2x12. But it's got stereo chorus, so it's got some kind of like JC120 vibes. I'm gonna have, when I'm recording the guitar, I'll be doing the stereo chorus really slow and pretty shallow depth. And that's why I have the reason why I have the mic out like this, because I'm still only using one mic, but I have it set up so that like it's leaning more on one speaker than the other, and I feel like, but it's far away enough that I feel like it'll catch the sound of both. The reason I'm doing that is because I kind of like the sound that it makes. It kind of, hopefully, it'll give like a kind of comb filtery, kind of phasey thing. Like it's been recorded in like a kind of less than ideal way. It already is, but let's kind of lean into it a little bit.
Brother, biscuit on the stairs.